Recorded Books presents Witnesses for the Dead, edited by Gary Phillips and Gar Anthony Haywood, narrated by Robertson Dean, Greta Young, Tamika Katon-Donegal, Brian Nishii, Arnell Powell, Marisol Ramirez, Christopher Salazar, and Suzanne Toren. Introduction by Gary Phillips and Gar Anthony Haywood, narrated by Arnell Powell. Death at the Sundial Motel by Aaron Philip Clark, narrated by Marisol Ramirez. The Gardener of Roses by Richie Narvaez, narrated by Marisol Ramirez. Envy by Christopher Chambers, narrated by Arnell Powell. Star Witness by Daryl James, narrated by Christopher Salazar. Codename Penelope by Cara Black, narrated by Suzanne Toren. The Killing at Joshua Lake by Scott Adlerberg, narrated by Arnell Powell. Postgame by Alex Segura, narrated by Christopher Salazar. Spiders and Fly by Gary Phillips, narrated by Arnell Powell. A Family Matter by Sarah M. Chen, narrated by Greta Young. Havana Caliente by Teresa Dovalpage, narrated by Marisol Ramirez. Fatal Assumptions by Pamela Samuels Young, narrated by Tamika Katon-Donegal. On Gossamer Wings by Gar Anthony Haywood, narrated by Arnell Powell. This Night in Question by Todd Goldberg, narrated by Robertson Dean. Pearl Joy by S. J. Rosen, narrated by Brian Nishii. Introduction. When former First Lady Nancy Reagan introduced the phrase, "just say no," to young Americans as an approach to avoid crack cocaine in the early 1980s, no one could deny how catchy it was. And as a tactic in the war on drugs, it sounded so simple and easily adopted. But just saying no to some things is often difficult, if not impossible, and the slogan's advice soon proved easier said than done. Similarly, see something, say something suffers from this same dichotomy. It sounds so easy to do, and yet is quite often anything but. Aside from the natural reluctance many have to get involved in other people's business, reporting someone to the authorities over one infraction or another we just happen to witness feels something like only a snitch or a rat would do, to quote every film noir ever made. For in some cases, you can get yourself hurt or even killed for being a rat. Luckily for all of us, there are heroes among us who, when they saw something, they said something, despite the possible consequences for them. Darnella Frazier is one such hero. Ms. Frazier, at the time, was a 17-year-old black woman who, in recording George Floyd's death at the hands, or rather left knee, of Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin in May of 2020, helped lead to Chauvin's eventual conviction on murder and manslaughter charges. People across the country, including Floyd's family, have applauded her bravery and quick thinking in the face of police pressure to leave the scene, which, they say, made the guilty verdict possible. The stories and witnesses for the dead are inspired by Miss Frazier's courage in choosing to make George Floyd's business her own. These tales are indeed about people driven, to lesser and greater degrees, to do the right thing, though what is right, in some cases, is purely subjective. The ideas some have about balancing the scales might give you, the ordinary, upright, pay-my-bills-on-time denizen, considerable pause. There are characters populating these pages who, rather than simply observing a crime, take the initiative to see that the guilty are punished and the victims receive justice. In some stories, our heroes are drawn into perilous situations against their will and must fight to survive just to ensure what they've witnessed will matter. For the most part, the protagonists herein don't wear uniforms or carry a badge. They're ordinary people, sometimes shady people, who nonetheless take extraordinary steps to right a wrong. Given the choice between inaction and action, these men and women take the latter route, sometimes with great reluctance and occasionally
Sample complete. Ready to continue?